Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special webinar today. My name is Matt Tucker, and I am the Director of Research for IFMA. It's a special day today. It is World FM Day, and I'm delighted to be hosting this webinar on strategies for the future of the workplace. And I'm delighted to welcome some old and established friends of ours from FM Systems. The guests are not old and established. The company is, and it's been a friend of IFMA for a very long time. And I'd like to welcome Brian Haynes, Jennifer Heath, and Stephen Pyatt to join me today. I'm going to quickly hand over to you guys to introduce yourselves before we start. So Brian, I'll start with you.
Sure, thanks, Matt, and it's great to be here on World FM Day. I am Brian Haynes. I'm the head of product strategy for the Digital Solutions Group, Open Blue at Johnson Controls, formerly FM Systems. Really excited to be here for this discussion today.
Thank you very much, Brian. Over to you, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Heath. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at FM Systems. Also so excited to be here on World FM Day. So excited to continue this great partnership that we've had with IFMA for so many years, talking about some of these really interesting trends and changes that are in front of us.
And last but not least, we have Stephen, who is on my side of the pond in the UK.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon from near to London here in the UK. I'm Stephen Pyatt, part of the strategy team here also at FM Systems, and really excited for today's discussion, and also great in celebrating World FM Day to you all. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks very much, Stephen. So we have some really nice topics to get through today. We have a packed set of questions that I'm going to be asking our three guests. Before I do, it'd be really cool to hear from where everybody is joining us from, whether it's good morning to you, good afternoon to you, good day to you. Let us know who you are, who you're working for, and where you are in the world. It would be really cool to see that. Awesome. So let's kick off with the first topic. I think the first topic is certainly something that FM Systems know quite a bit about. I want to talk about employee experience. So as many organizations encourage employees to return to the office, we're seeing this a lot now in the news and within our practices. Expectations around workplace design and experience have certainly shifted. So maybe I can kick off with you, Brian. How are organizations redefining the workplace experience to support both employee engagement and business outcomes?
Well, first of all, Matt, workplace experience is a really hot topic. It wasn't necessarily so not so many years ago, but coming out of the pandemic, and when we had an opportunity to kind of hit the reset button on the way we thought about our facilities and how we use them, combined with kind of interesting use patterns. As people came back, we kind of came back in very chaotic ways. Some organizations had returned to office policies, some did not. Some were hybrid, as we've heard. Some have been now returned full time. What that has required us to do, I think, as a profession, is to really take a very close look at how we're using our space and what the experience is for occupants. And I'm not just talking about for employees, but I'm talking about for faculty, staff, and students in higher education, patients and staff in healthcare settings, manufacturing, you name it. We're really at this, we've had this opportunity to kind of hit the reset button, as I was saying. What we saw early on was a greater need to provide what we call we space or collaboration space. We saw a lot of organizations begin to sort of shift away from cubicle farms, the terrible cubicle farm from the distant past, and workstations into space that was a lot more flexible, really focused on things such as ideation, creation, culture building, getting together, team building, all of those kinds of things. What we're finding now, Matt, is that there's a real need to measure the effectiveness of all of that. I think what we're seeing in our profession is not just an evolution around how we look at space and the experience that we're providing to the end user, but really more like a revolution, right? It's really we're looking at things like occupant safety and health in a way that we've never looked at before, indoor air quality, better access to light, the ability to be able to select different kinds of spaces for different kinds of needs on a daily basis, the ability to be able to access amenities, the ability to understand when your colleagues are coming in or when visitors are going to be coming in, all of it highly connected and all really focused towards providing a more positive workplace experience. So for those who need to come to the office due to return to office policies or just want to get back into the office because they really miss that sort of togetherness, and humans really like to get together and work and collaborate, we're really seeing that improved workplace experience and providing a better, more optimized workplace experience is really the thing that's bringing people back. It's not, terrific coffee, and it's not bring your puppy to work day. It's really about bringing us together as professionals into the workplace that's doing it, and then providing this amazing kind of office experience, workplace experience that supports health and safety, productivity, wellness, all of that.
Coffee helps though, right?
Coffee certainly does. It certainly helps, yes. Unless you're in the UK, then it could be tea in the morning.
That's very true. I have just finished my late afternoon cup of tea.
There you go.
I'm probably due another 3 before I go to bed. So, is there anything, Jennifer or Stephen, you'd like to add to those comments from Brian?
I will follow on. I think it's a really interesting moment where organizations are getting to choose what kind of culture they want to have. Because whether you're a full in-office mandate or you have a highly flexible schedule, you let your employees choose, you have to create and manage a workplace experience in either scenario. And so organizations are getting to kind of decide, do we want to have a really strong in-office culture? Is that really important to us, to the nature of what we're doing? Or do we want to embrace the employees, the talent, the workforce that prefers a more hybrid, remote, flexible environment? Because not all people do well in a hybrid or flexible environment. Some people really thrive and want to be in the office 5 days a week. And so there's sort of I feel like a kind of a leveling out of personality types and work types and the organizational cultures that different companies want to establish for themselves. And I think everyone's going to kind of fall where they want to be. And we're going to have the opportunity to really optimize that experience in either scenario.
Well, I think the challenge for FMs and the occupancies planners then is actually identifying the right types of spaces to fuel that productivity, depending upon whatever mandate or work style you have. It's around having great designs and environmental factors that really support the fueling of the focus and that collaboration and that social agenda as well. So it's prior, as we know, as you referenced, Brian, we came out of pandemic, it was all about space, collaboration desks, and now we hear more and more about heads down work back in the office. So it's a real blend and mixture of trying to find the right spaces to really maximize productivity for our colleagues and employees.
Right, because you have to offer different spaces depending on what the people are going to be doing when they're there. So if you're largely hybrid, you need more collaboration space. That's why people are coming in. If you're in the office 5 days a week, then you need more quiet space, heads down space, private offices for private conversations, because those activities aren't happening at home, they're happening there in the office.
Definitely.
I'll go back to Brian. You listed quite a few strategies or examples of things, other than coffee, which are enabling people to come to return to the office, come back into the office. If you could maybe highlight 1 or 2 that you feel have been most profound in helping people want to come back to the office, not necessarily because they are mandated to. Do you feel there's anything where people are like, actually, I want to be there for that reason?
Yeah, some of them are really positive, and some of them maybe could be construed to be slightly less positive. But the first one that really started to emerge, and I think the first time I read about this was Adobe, who had decided that they really wanted their employees back into the office for what they call moments that matter. And that is, if you're coming in and you're sitting all day by yourself at a workstation, and you're dialing into Teams calls literally next to people who are also in there sitting in their cubicles, those are probably not moments that matter. You could probably, complete that work anywhere. The moments that matter is really the team building stuff, the culture building stuff that Jennifer was talking about. And I really think that a lot of organizations that do have return to office policies, they really when you really see what these CEOs are saying and what these senior leaders are saying, they feel like they've lost a little bit of their culture. They've lost a little bit of the human touch, the water cooler conversations. What I consider all of those moments to be moments that matter, right? We really do great things when we're together as humans. But then there's obviously the heads down, I need to get work done, I need quiet, and maybe that's a little bit less relevant. So there's the moments that matter. And then the second one that I don't know if it's negative or what it might be, but the fear of missing out, right? FOMO, really, when you're sitting at home and you realize that 80% of your team is in the office in a meeting and you're dialed in for some strange reason because you didn't know that they were all going to be there's this fear that you're missing out on maybe side conversations or things that are happening or decisions that are being made that you should be part of. So that's actually another factor that's actually been written about quite a bit, Matt. That there's this sort of want for us to not miss out on things, especially if our colleagues are in the office. So we're seeing a lot of need for these technologies and not just technologies, but also availability of information that lets me know when the people I truly care about from a work perspective, maybe it's teammates, maybe I'm working on a project together, maybe I need to catch up with someone who I haven't seen in the office, maybe I found out that someone's going to be there that I haven't seen in a while and I'd love to catch up with them. Understanding that, and so I don't miss those moments is another one that's come up quite often for people that's really driving people back.
Would you guys relate to that, Jennifer, Stephen?
For me, I think, yeah, definitely. But it's also the role of the facilities team has really expanded. Facilities have deployed great strategies and really make people want to return to the office. If I think about the concierge, the front of house team, the catering teams, the space ambassadors, those people are part of the FM team who are really making it a great place to work by having an engaging service proposition in the buildings. That really makes a differential. For me, commuting into the office, I want a great experience, and that starts with people welcoming me, people understanding my needs when I need to sit at a desk. I think that's been a significant shift in recent years where facilities teams have been able to provide that more high-touch service to colleagues coming in, but also the technology. As we emerged out of COVID, we were all self-servicing, we were booking our shopping, we were doing everything online, and now the ability to, as to your point, Brian, find out where my colleagues are coming in on a Sunday night. I can spin up an app, find out who's coming in, so I can, again, come in and collaborate with them, or know that I can book a space for heads down work, or book, more importantly, a quiet area. I've been at home for a few years. I love to have silence around me. So can I book a space that really works to what I need from it? So I think, yeah, those strategies really start to help where we're putting people first as they return to the office.
Yeah, I think we're at such an interesting crossroads right now of expectations changing for what work can be, what we want it to be. And the technology is right there, able to provide that information to us in real time. I think, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, if we'd all wanted to work from home, well, too bad. You can't do any of your jobs from home. And today we're in a really different situation that the technology is available. All of our systems are in the cloud. You can access things from anywhere. But to Brian's point, you also have access to data about what's happening around you. I mean, just today I was accepting an invite for a meeting, and it was the first time I had been prompted to accept as either virtual or in person. And that sort of information informs those decisions about, is today a day I want to go into the office? I can open up an app and see that my whole team is going to be there. Hopefully the team lead planned that and communicated it, and everyone is aware that there's going to be lunch in the office today, or that there's going to be a speaker in the afternoon that everyone should come in for. Communication and the availability of information is really driving us to a much more optimized workplace experience.
And making it frictionless as well. Frictionless touch points as well is really important.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to move on to the next theme in a minute. And Jennifer mentioned the word, well, we've managed to get 16 minutes in without saying hybrid. Well, actually, you said it once, Jennifer.
I did. I
Now I've
wanted
said
to
it twice.
retract it, but I
Yeah,
did.
well, we are gonna move on to the hybrid theme in a second, and I just wanted to point out though, thank you so much for the people that put in comments in the chat. In case people didn't realize, we have people represented here from my fellow Europeans. We have Sweden, Switzerland. Actually, one of my good friends, Niels. Hello, Niels, from the Netherlands. We have African countries: Ghana, South Africa, Morocco, Middle East, Qatar. Lots of different states in North America, Canada, Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago, India, and the list goes on. So thank you so much for all joining us. And this is making it a truly global conversation. And on that note, I want to make sure we leave some time at the end for a few questions and answers. So put them in the chat, and our wonderful colleagues behind the scenes will try and compile them for us as we move through. So hybrid. Let's have a think about hybrid work and return to office strategies. It's something that, organizations, they're still fine-tuning it. They still haven't cracked it. What do you guys see as the biggest challenges you've seen organizations facing when they're trying to balance in-office and remote work? I'm going to leave that open.
I'll go first. I think the number one challenge is creating equity and making everyone feel like they're still an even part of the team, that you don't have some teams that are coming in 4 days a week and then other teams that never come in, and maybe there's resentment that builds there. There has to be very clear communications and expectations of what hybrid looks like in your organization. And you have to create opportunities for people to have, this was a term that came up early in the pandemic, and I still love it, digital equity. If you are physically remote, so if I'm in Tennessee and all my colleagues are meeting in Raleigh and they're in person in the office and I can't physically be there, I still need to feel like I'm an equal part of the meeting, that I have an equal say in what's going on, that my voice is being heard as well. And again, the technology is right there enabling this kind of work style. Just in the last few years, we've had huge advancements in our ability to video conference and communicate remotely, the cameras that will turn to respond to the sounds. And it really does make you feel like you are a part of the meeting. I was fully remote for years before the pandemic. And so I was accustomed to being that disembodied on the voice, on the phone, that really nobody ever heard. And if they ever went on mute, then you had no idea what was going on, or people would start talking on the side and you couldn't understand anything. Today, we're in such a better place to enable these cross-functional or cross-time zone, in many cases, cross-location meetings. And the time zone is another thing. I'm probably going to bring this up many times. We are a part of a global economy. And so when people talk about these in-office mandates and how much time they spend in the office, my immediate question is, but are all of your teammates in that same office? Or are they even in your same time zone? Because that, to me, is one of the foundational benefits of hybrid work, is we're all a part of these different teams. Brian, Stephen, and I, we span across, 6 hours between the three of us?
Yes.
So 9 to 5 is meaningless in
we literally are on the same team. But we also have teams within teams in the product organization, the digital product organization, OpenBlue, that we're all part of. And we are highly distributed. And it works really, really well for technology companies to be like that. But there is also the excitement of getting together, right, Jennifer? When we do get together and we have team meetings, it's really great. I will tell you, I'm stuck on this comment right here by Henrik. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, but it says 9 out of 10 of the best top performing stocks on the Fortune 500 list in January 2025 are hybrid. I want to dig into that. I want to find out. I'm going to go do some research on that, because that's fascinating. Is it the kind of company? Is it the culture of the company? Is it what they're producing or the service that they provide? I want to go look, because I find that fascinating, because I have not seen a single return to office mandate that to me did not feel somehow punitive or punishment. Like, no one perceives all right, everyone's back or you get fired as a
I mean,
fun
it's an
thing. I've not heard
incentive.
anyone go, oh my God, thank goodness, we're all back. This is great. And I'm really excited about it. So that's a really fascinating. I'm wondering if we could, I mean, guys, we got to like see if we could connect business performance to utilization and hybrid work patterns. And although I don't like to say hybrid work patterns because I think it's just the way it is now, and it's, you know, but wow, that's fascinating to me. I'm going to look at it now. You know, there's a lot of work though that we tend to talk about specific kinds of work when it comes to hybrid, right? So we're in a technology company. It's quite easy to do. Most of our work is online. We're highly physically distributed. You know, Stephen's in the UK, Jennifer's in Tennessee, I'm in North Carolina. Our leadership of our team is in Detroit and in Milwaukee. So we're kind of all over the place. And that really, it's not like we're all going to get on a jet every day and meet somewhere. That's just not going to happen. But we're a technology company. But flip that on its head and look at things like healthcare, right? How do you provide a supreme patient experience without actually being there? You know, I mean, you can do online doctors and things like that, but I'm talking about the real practice of, you know, you're in a medical setting, you're getting top, you know, world care. Can't do that really in a hybrid work environment. It's really difficult to manufacture in a hybrid work environment, right? Like, I'm not going to build a car in my bedroom. I might be able to, but I'm not going to build thousands of cars in my bedroom. And so those kinds of people they're never hybrid. They've always been back. So I do want to be a little bit careful when we talk about this, that hybrid primarily applies, I think, mostly to people who sit to do their job, you know, like at a desk or something like that, which is interesting. But I'm fascinated by that comment.
Yeah, if we
what do you guys think?
just zoning in on that comment a little bit more from Henrik, could it be the case that the sort of power dynamic between company mandate and employee voice and power has shifted? Because there's a phrase I keep hearing lately, and it's not exactly a healthy one, but it refers to the C-suite and often the top person, which is, if they had it their way, that's the phrase, everyone would be back in the office. I keep hearing this and it's frustrating me. If they had it their way, we'd all be back in. But they're not all back in, because we have a flexible working arrangement and people seem to be happy with that. So has that dynamic almost shifted where the company, even if they, you know, they're not publicly saying it, maybe they're internally saying that they would like everyone back, they don't actually have that power anymore to do it? I don't know.
Right. No, I think there's a definite question there around talent. And if you are firm that you do not offer hybrid work or remote work or any kind of flexibility, you're limiting your talent pool. And to my point earlier, if an in-office culture is absolutely important to you, then maybe you're willing to take that risk because you want the people who want to physically be in the office all the time. So there's a real balance there when it comes to talent and retention.
And I guess that's where we get the phrases soft mandate or hard mandate, because the soft mandate sort of allows management to have a sort of loosey-goosey arrangement where you're in a couple of days, maybe 3, versus the hard line, you'll all be back in. But of course, that brings back to the facilities management team, the biggest challenge of all. How on earth do they create spaces without necessarily having the right data to have the right spaces for those mandates? It's a real challenge all the time. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges organizations face when trying to implement mandates or soft mandates is not having enough data about what space they need. And thinking back to the old rules of thumb, where through rose-tinted glasses, everyone was in the office pre-pandemic, they weren't. But it's coming back to the table now. We're saying, actually, what space do I need, and how can the facilities management team really provide a great space for those different mandates? It's a real challenge.
Yeah, our data was showing higher utilization rates pre-pandemic, but not even close to being 100%. We were 35, 40% across massive real estate portfolios globally, even before. And that's back in the day where everyone thinks that everyone was in their seat and they were there every day. But the truth is, the data does not hold that out. Now, we are lower, right, across the board, globally across the board. We are at lower utilization rates, and even return to office mandates are not driving those percentages up heavily. Jennifer and I often comment about what that does not show is that anytime somebody adds a day in the office to their return to office policy, you should see utilization go up 20% in a perfect environment, right? Because there's 5 days a week, 20% per day should go up, basic math. We're not seeing that. We're seeing, even with return to office mandates, the utilization percentage going up is in the single digits. So it's fascinating.
I think another important piece for FMs to kind of carry on Stephen's point about how it's hard to manage different expectations, knowing what kind of spaces you need when the mandate is maybe a little too flexible. The other big side for facility managers in a hybrid environment is predicting and managing their maintenance programs. If you don't have anyone in the office on Mondays and Fridays, then you need to have a really different strategy than what you have Tuesday through Thursday. And something else Brian and I talk about in regards to the mandates, organizational leadership might be very excited and enthusiastic to bring people back into the office, but are they considering the guaranteed increase in energy costs and maintenance costs? The more people you have in the building, the more wear and tear you're going to have on the building. You're going to have more coffee. You're going to have more Kleenex, all the things. It's all going to cost a little bit more. And so you have to be careful that you're not making assumptions about what your utilization is. We're mandating 5 days a week in the office. We're expecting, 80% utilization every single day. We're going to stock and staff based on that assumption. If your utilization is still around 45%, you're spending a lot of money for no return. So there's a big risk there for facility maintenance teams that they are overspending on maintenance and energy, and they really don't have the people there to support it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I want to ask you another question linked to the challenges with hybrid. And it's something very close to the research I'm doing at the moment. And it's around that cross-functional collaboration between different organizational departments. Now, I was sitting in a meeting a couple of days ago with an organization, a space planning meeting, right? We're talking about utilization, and it's led by the FM team. There is no representatives there from HR, from finance, for example. And they're talking about utilization rates, etc. And then I asked the question, well, who has the data for hybrid work patterns? Who has that team level data where we understand when people are in and when people are not in? And they're like, that's with HR, not with us. Why can we get that data? Can we work together? Don't know. So this is a massive challenge for not just for FM, but for every organizational discipline. And there's got to be more collaboration. How do we get these different departmental functions to work together and try and create a more unified approach with hybrid work?
I think one of them is probably data transparency, which is sort of a, kind of the flip side of what you were talking, Matt. You've got all of these departments who are not being included in the process, right? And someone's doing centralized space planning based upon what? Do they have the data and they're not sharing that data with the departments that they're doing the space and occupancy planning for? The concern is there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? There's expansion contraction plans. There's, sometimes there's M&A things that happen within companies. They might be bringing someone else in. They may be closing an office. They may be opening an office. They may be planning on taking an office offline while they renovate it and create a more hybrid work environment. I mean, there's all kinds of things that really need to be transparent with the underlying occupying departments, not just the departments that are doing the planning. So I think that there's a real disconnect in that story that you were telling that is not going to lead to a positive outcome, because simply the people who are going to occupy those spaces are going to be told at some point, your space is ready. Oh, we forgot to ask you if that's the space you want or need. And that really comes down to, I think, measuring the performance of what you have, really planning on what you need, and doing a lot of research, frankly, doing a lot of surveying. I think surveying occupants is one of the things that we don't do quite well in our profession, and we should be doing it a lot more. What are your needs? And not just the needs from the department head level, but all the way down to everybody who sits in, wherever they sit during the day. I've heard all kinds of interesting anecdotal stories over the last couple of years where, for one of the organizations that I've spoken with, like the location of ice machines on every floor was really important to people. Who knew, right? I didn't know that, but that ended up being one of the number one things that people like to have access to. Being able to be close to people that you collaborate with on a frequent basis, being able to sit with them and make decisions on a daily basis where and how you're going to sit. Like, all of that needs to be shared, and it's data that needs to be shared so that there can be transparency and collaboration. I think for a successful, really positive workplace experience, you just can't be told, there's your spot, go sit on it, and you're not going to be happy, frankly.
Definitely. And I think it's critical. I would argue there's another function missing, perhaps, and that would be IT as well. And bringing HR, finance, IT, and real estate leaders together is fundamental. If we think about the role of the FM and security, they have the people data of who's in the building, and perhaps there's sensor information or badge swipe data around certain teams and where they're occupying. You need to be connected to HR to understand the pipeline, what's happening in next month, in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, what's happening with recruitment, what's happening with the buildings. Do you need to ask finance for more money, or actually have you got enough data to take to the table to say, we don't need more space, we just need to make our space more efficient? So absolutely, I think it's fundamental that those functions join up together to have an end-to-end view of the portfolio, the people, and then the technology and support that's needed in there.
I had an interesting comment from Anil, who is saying that they've been witnessing occupancy rates of 80% plus for the last 2 years. That's pretty impressive. If you want to put in the comments, Anil, any context to that, would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Where location, organizational type. Yeah, we'd be interested to hear that. Very, very big numbers we're talking there.
And at some point, now it gets an occupancy, or, well, first of all, he's talking about basically the number of people coming into the facility, because I think they're using access control. They're not really measuring intent, like where people are going to sit, or actual utilization where people do sit. They may do that. 80% gets to a very interesting percentage, because in space occupancy planning in the past, especially in assigned seating environment, once you hit 80s, 90%, you completely lose flexibility within your organization to do things such as get together for meetings and ideation, because almost every spot's taken, right? It's really difficult to move around. So at 80%, most organizations would probably be thinking about expanding. Now, I don't know. So he's with WSP India. I'd like to see what kind of work that is. Is it call center work, or is it work where, is it development or something like that, where, everyone's got a seat every single day and is expected to be there or not? But that's a very high percentage.
Yeah, I think Brian and I both kind of tuned into the same thing inside that comment, that it's 80% occupancy. And one of the things we talk with our clients about a lot is the difference between occupancy and utilization. And monitoring through access control, if you're looking at, people badging in, potentially people badging out, you'll know how many people are there each day, potentially how long they were there if you do badge out. If you only have badge in data, you only know that somebody arrived, but then there's no indication of what happened after that. So being able to really measure utilization, if it's through occupancy sensors or area sensors or flow counter sensors, that you have a sense of how people are moving through your space, the spaces that they're actually utilizing, that's the kind of data that then really can start to inform floor plan designs and decisions, and you can start to really understand your employee preferences. And somebody had a comment earlier on about dropping mandates and creating magnets. understanding your employee preferences and starting to design a space around the way that they are naturally working and are interacting with each other, over time, that does become a magnet. Because every time they go into the office, it's exactly what they need. They have the right amount of heads down space. They have high functioning collaborative spaces that are big enough or small enough or whatever it is that's happening inside your organization. And I think one of the important things to remember as you're thinking about strategies that you want to implement or changes that you may want to make, if it's more in office days or fewer or different amenities, there is no one size fits all solution. There's not one thing that's going to work for every organization, but there's also not one thing that's going to work for every organization forever. Your organization is going to continue to evolve and change, and the needs of your workforce will change. And again, all that data that you're able to collect through different technologies will continue to inform those strategies over time.
Mm-hmm. So, Jennifer, you mentioned a little bit earlier about some of the operational and maintenance challenges that we might face and that need for operational efficiency. What technologies are you seeing as potential game changers for trying to streamline operations in flexible working environments?
So the first one for me is indoor air quality. Being able to monitor indoor air quality can inform so many different things. One, it's a leading indicator of your HVAC performance. If your air quality starts to go down, the first thing you want to do is look at your airflow in your systems. And is there something happening inside the walls that's contributing to bad air quality? Or is it something else? Do you have too many people crammed into a small space? Is there a wildfire? Is there poor air quality outside that's naturally coming in? It gives you insight into so many things that can let you improve your energy consumption and delivery. It can let you better manage that energy cost, but it also gives you insight to create a much healthier environment for your employees. Air quality can have a huge impact on productivity, ability to focus. It can cause headaches and fatigue. It can really take a toll on your occupants over time. And so I feel like it's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. You get really good insight on your HVAC, and you have the ability to really improve the internal conditions for your employees.
Yeah, Jennifer, I think also it's about matching the performance and operational time of the building to match when people are actually there using it, right? It's checking the building control, building automation system, connecting it to actual utilization. If your energy costs are the same when no one's there as to when everyone's there, you've got a problem, and you've probably been dumping a massive amount of money into the garbage every single day. And we see a lot of organizations like that. Even as you go around and you look at different geographies that have ESG initiatives, or they're really looking at reducing. I got to tell you, every time I go into a city at nighttime, it's like it's all lit up. You go by office buildings, all the lights are on. It's because we're not connecting occupancy to actual operations. And I think that there's a massive benefit to being able to do that. Buildings are responsible for about 40% of the energy use and carbon footprint of this planet. And we as a profession have an opportunity to almost right the ship just by simply operating our buildings properly when people are there and turning them off when they're not. I mean, how many times do you tell your kids turn the lights off when you leave the room, right? Or don't have the air conditioning running all day long when no one's there. It applies to businesses as well.
So these things that we're talking about here, they're actually ironically quite tangible, aren't they? Because we've got factual information to join the dots with those trends. What about something less tangible when we look at the impacts of productivity or well-being? We've had some comments in here about daycare, babysitting. Somebody else mentioned health and well-being. How do we measure the success of FM initiatives that are aimed at improving, for example, well-being? It's more of an intangible factor, isn't it?
It is.
So easy to capture.
I think if FM and corporate real estate are part of the overall people surveys that may be happening in the organisation, it's a great opportunity to really get the sentiments of the employee, how they're engaging with the building. what services they really like and what could be done better. We're typically in the past always asked about are our areas clean? Are they tidy? But we can talk now more about the experience and also where we need to apply new well-being agendas, or perhaps just by providing new equipment, new services to the building to really drive well-being, and that's almost that connection again with the building and the services that it provides.
Yeah, there are things that are sort of soft data, and soft data I think would be to just simply survey occupants. Do you feel better coming to work? Are you having a positive experience? And ask a whole series of questions that essentially allow you to gauge how they feel about it, and that would be a little bit more of a soft score. There are things that you probably could connect, such as absenteeism. Like if you could look at HR data and see if are people sick more often than not. After we did these initiatives where we replaced all of the filtering and upgraded the HVAC system and did all of these things to improve access to daylight, are we seeing healthier, more well occupants of our facility, including our employees? That data is probably available. We could probably look at that and make some pretty good assumptions based upon that data. The other one is, I keep going back to the one earlier, like 9 of the 10 top companies in the Fortune 500 are hybrid, right?
That's what I was about to say.
They must be highly productive. There's something there that I'm going to research and I'm going to dig into, because if that's the truth, wow, that's super compelling. Can you imagine the board of a company that's public saying, listen, CEO, no, you're not going back full time because the top performing competitors are not, that we have to deal with. That'd be pretty interesting. So that's one I'm going to look at, because I think that productivity can be measured by the success of many organizations.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to go back and look at the 9. Like, what are some of the FM strategies they have implemented? Because when I initially thought about the question, how do you measure the success? It's very difficult because it's generally a long-term result. When you're investing in things to make your employees more productive, to improve their well-being, it's going to take a cycle of time to see how that impacts. And so to consider the top 9 of 10 are hybrid environments, what else are they doing within that is giving them this obvious organizational success?
So I want to turn a little bit to, we've mentioned a few things which are related to environmental sustainability here, like Brian saying about, we're going through a city at night and seeing all the lights on. There's been some comments in the chat about water usage, about carbon neutral, etc. So what strategies have helped you guys, or what have you seen which has helped align sustainability goals with budget constraints? How can we actually, we are still perceived, we are a cost function. We're often negatively perceived in that way as an FM community. Are you seeing examples of how we can be a bit more savvy in joining up that notion with sustainability?
Brian, you're on mute.
Yeah, I must have made that. I'll speak of one in particular, Matt. So I've been with FM Systems for quite a long time now, but I've also know quite a bit about their own history of where they moved from one office as they grew to another. We just built a new headquarters in Raleigh over the past year and a half. This is the first time where sustainability was an absolute requirement for the design. First of all, we wanted to participate in the circular economy. We wanted to make sure that in our old office, we recycled or upcycled whatever we could do with everything we had. We made it a huge priority. We allowed employees to take things so that we would extend the life of these things that all have a carbon footprint. In our design, we looked for energy efficiency. We looked for a developer that was going to support that kind of work environment where sustainability was also part of their goals. And then when we selected materials, we did it with sustainability in mind. So I think that's just a personal reflection on a project that we were involved in. It is definitely something that I'm seeing As I go to chapter meetings, this is always something that people are talking about. There's a lot of furniture manufacturers and distributors who are being very active with IFMA right now and talking about how they can help keep, a lot of this furniture and a lot of the equipment out of the landfill and into operations, really extending its operational life. And we're seeing that actually extend into not just like movable assets like, furniture and things like that, but also building assets, like the big building assets that sit on top of buildings that are becoming a lot more sustainable as well. And, many of the building owners and occupiers that we talk to are really looking at, listen, how can I extend the life of these assets by, better performing maintenance, really taking care of my deferred maintenance, picking solutions that have better energy performance, less footprint, all of those kinds of things, less waste. I see it as part of almost the daily conversation in our profession now. And I can tell you 10 years ago, it wasn't. It just wasn't. So that's maybe a little bit anecdotal, but that's what I'm seeing.
No, it's really useful. I can resonate to a lot of it. A small name drop here. Check out the Circular Facility Management Report, which is available on our research and benchmarking pages at IFMA, and you can gain a whole lot more insight into that. Here's a quite a provocative question for you. Does hybrid complicate or assist sustainability? Is it enabling?
It certainly it assists.
Is it a barrier?
It helps. No, absolutely does not. It's not a barrier to sustainability. Then I'll see, and I'll give you another example based upon us. Our office, which serves the same size company, is 1/3 the size of our previous office. We're hybrid. Less footprint, less energy usage, less space, more optimized to getting together. We do a lot of meetings there. It is definitely a lot more sustainable, and hybrid didn't do anything except help that.
Yeah, I think sustainability and hybrid go hand in hand because it does give you the opportunity to potentially reduce your overall footprint, but also to potentially, if you have the right data, to really optimize your energy use. If you typically come in 3 days a week, on Monday and Friday, you can power your buildings down. If you know people tend to come in late on Wednesdays, you can power it up a little bit later in the morning. It gives you so much more flexibility to cut corners when it comes to that energy usage instead of just having it on all day long, the duration of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever it may be, to be able to have it on that same kind of fluctuating scale as your utilization. There's a lot of cost savings to be had there. Another piece to kind of go back to the point of how do we reduce our overall emissions, that there's such a responsibility within commercial real estate, because we do account for about 40% of global carbon emissions within commercial real estate. And while that sounds daunting, there is also a huge potential for us to make those small changes to bring those emissions down. And one of the areas that is a big generator is construction and renovation. The process of building a new building or renovating an existing building has multiple different aspects that are carbon emitting functions. If you can better control your decision-making process around construction and renovation, you can make a big impact in terms of your overall carbon emissions. If you're really monitoring utilization and you're able to make changes based on actual utilization, not just what you think your employees need, you're going to be making a much sounder investment and making a much wiser choice about where do you want to spend your carbon credits. There's no need to build a whole new building if really you're only about 40% occupied, or maybe you don't need to completely renovate this space. You need to combine these spaces over here. There's more cost-effective, environmentally friendly solutions available if you have the data to really make an informed strategic decision.
I think there's also some lower cost or no cost initiatives. We talk about the building optimization, but that's also the services optimization. Using the right data, you no longer need that many catering deliveries coming into the building every week. you no longer need that many cleaning supplies coming into the building. So it's multifaceted, where the FM team can really demonstrate sustainability saves from low cost and no cost initiatives as well, based upon utilization and occupancy data. And I think that's a real win as well.
And there's also the commute. So a huge advantage of hybrid, especially in the states where we don't have great public transportation. Maybe you're an hour or more away from your office and you're having to commute 5 days a week. There's a lot of emissions in that commute. And so again, hybrid is contributing positively to that by removing some of those cars from the road.
I would be on the road 15 hours a week. And our corporate policy is you're not allowed to be on your phone while you're driving. So that's 15 lost productivity hours straight. And I don't go in every day. I do go in every week, but once, maybe twice, not 5, no way.
And the commute is one of those things that has two benefits as well, because there is an employee well-being facet to having a reduced commute as well. Anyone out there who has ever had a hard commute, like a Houston freeway or an LA freeway, you are a happier, healthier person if you can do that less.
Our good friend Henrik from Sweden agrees with the hybrid point and sustainability, which is good to see. Thank you, Henrik. But playing devil's advocate here, based on some of the things you mentioned before, Brian, and you, Jennifer, about data and the fact that sometimes these things are not connected properly. So we still see lights on all the time at nighttime when they should be off, when there is no occupancy. Are we still facing this challenge of joining up data to make this sustainable? Because it's great that in theory it's sustainable, but I think the big thing is, if you have the data, how do we empower teams, FM teams, to be able to get better data and analyze better data?
Well, first of all, the majority of the building stock on the planet is not very smart. It's not connected. It's not giving you the data you need to be able to make these kinds of near real-time or real-time decisions. The reason that a lot of these buildings are lit up at nighttime is because cleaning crews go through and they flip the lights on for a floor. And it's a manual process of going to turn everything off, and it just doesn't get done. And I'm certainly not blaming cleaning crews for that, but it's just human nature. The lights come on and we go to the next floor and we just continue to do our job. When that decision is taken out of the hands of humans by building automation systems, things like AI, which are beginning to look at the data and make decisions for us, they are able to make better, more informed decisions than humans can, frankly. They never go to sleep. They only look at the data. They don't make emotional decisions. They do the right thing based upon the information that's given to them. So the question is, Matt, going back to it, is that you got to have data, right? So that's the problem. If we've got a lot of dumb buildings that aren't telling us anything, you either make your building smarter or something else. And I really think the key right now, we're at this sort of evolutionary moment in the way we think about buildings. Our buildings are getting smarter. The systems going into our buildings are getting smarter. We've seen a massive shift in things like lightweight IoT technologies that are really easy to connect, things like utilization and understand how your building's being used. Indoor air quality, simple, very easy to be able to measure indoor air quality. And it's getting easier and easier to be able to connect this data to the building automation system. So it's turning off the lights. It's restricting what floors the elevators or lifts go to based upon utilization. It's doing a lot of things, but it really requires us to continue to pave that sort of data highway, if you will, within our buildings, because I walk into all of them all the time and they're just not very smart. Or they may have systems that are saying something and we're not listening. Maybe it's a legacy system. It's got old data. No one knows how to tap into it. It may be telling us something, but we're not listening to it. So I think there's really one of the big fundamental shifts that I think has to happen, Matt, is that we have got to help make our buildings smarter. And I think that that's a big part of what the strategy of the FM profession needs to be, is to really push making our buildings smarter so that they become partners to us and not a drag on us, right? They actually help us get our jobs done. We all want to operate high performance buildings that are beautiful, that have a really positive workplace experience and a light carbon footprint. That's what we all want. As a profession, I think we're going to have to really work hard to make that happen.
I think for a lot of people, it's hard to know where to start. Like, you need data to inform all these different decisions, but where does it come from? How do you decide where to start? And I think there's a couple of things to think about. One, is there a pressing business problem that you need to solve for? Do you have no sense of what your utilization is? Are you very concerned about air quality? Just hone in on one specific challenge that technology could solve for you, and then think about what data set will you get as a result of implementing that technology. The other piece, and I'm kind of amazed we haven't talked more about this, as you think about how you want to use AI to improve your operations, to improve efficiency, AI is only as good and as smart as the data that you put into it. AI by itself isn't anything. It's built on data models. So as you think about the AI solutions that you would like to have access to, think about what data sets you're going to need to inform the AI. And then that becomes another excellent starting point of just building that data library.
I think Brian said something very, very clear just now, which was treating the building as our new business partner. Mm-hmm. The building is our new partner, and we need to extract the data and understand what the building needs. I think it's really treating it as that partner going forward.
I was struck by one of the comments from Rashik. Thank you, Rashik. I'm not sure whereabouts you are in the world, but the phrase trial and error with data collection in comparison to its actual effect on each circumstance. And I love that idea that the FM professional is evolving into somebody who is curious, who is wanting to find out the relationships between the different data sets we have and the impacts that is having on things like well-being, productivity, cost effectiveness, sustainability, etc. And sorry, another plug, but the research, the report that is due to be coming out in the next few weeks that I've been working on, it's been my baby for the last few months, is the concept of the FM analyst. It's a mindset. It's a change in our ability to be both technically astute in terms of operations and maintenance, but also have that analytic capability to assess the things that we're talking about today. So I wanted to finish with your take on that. Do these individuals exist now? Are we evolving into that individual? And how do you see that future playing out?
Well, this is something that Brian and I have talked about so many times, that the role of the facility manager has evolved completely in the last 30 to 40 years. That there was this, traditional idea of someone with a toolbox down in the boiler room, and that was the facility maintenance person. And now this is a person with 3 monitors and all sorts of analytics and, sensor data coming in real time. And it's a completely different role than it was before. And I love that it's World FM Day, because I'm going to give a huge plug for FMs right now. I think it's probably one of the more dynamic career paths that you can go into right now. You can have a huge impact on your organizational productivity. You can have a huge impact on the sustainability goals of that organization. And it is a very forward-facing, you're, seated at the boardroom table, giving input on really important strategic decisions. It is a completely different career than it once was.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I would love to hear more from Brian and Stephen there, but we have approximately 60 seconds left, if less. I want to thank you all for joining me today. It's been a really, really interesting discussion. It's a special day, World FM Day. I hope you all enjoy yourselves who've joined us today. Thank you so much. We have the recording available through the same link that you entered into this webinar, so you can listen back to your heart's content. And thank you so much for joining us, and see you around at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.